Hi, how you going? So today we're going to talk about the movie mode and all the features that come in that are inside the movie mode and all the tricks you can do. The camera has full high def and there is one mode for 120 frames per second for like that super slow motion. There's 60 frames per second, and what we'll do, I'll go through all the menus and how to set everything up and all the features that go with it. And also I'll show you at the end, I'll show you some tricks you can do with changing the frame rate and the shutter speed to get like a kind of a cinematic look to your videos. So you can and then how to use ND filters also, and the manual mode. So straight out of the camera, if you just press the record button there, so the red little button, it's just going to take really good videos anyway, but there are ways to tweak it if you really want to. But if you just want just straight out of the camera, you just press that in any mode, a aperture, priority, program, whatever mode you're in, you just press that button and the video is pretty good. And the one good thing, the inbuilt image stabilization is fantastic. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the OMD EM10. I've got image stabilization on, continuous autofocus. I've just pressed the record button. I haven't even checked any of the settings. So, just straight out of camera. Jerry, what are you doing? To get into movie mode, you need to move the dial to the little movie icon there. Okay, so for recording movies in the OMD EM10, it's pretty easy. You can be in any mode you want. You can be in aperture, priority, or you can be in shutter priority or manual. It doesn't really matter. All you got to do is press that red button and it starts recording the movie. Now, when you're in those modes, P, A, S, and M, it's not going to inherit the exposure settings, the aperture and shutter settings from those particular modes. It's going to revert back to program mode. You might be in manual mode, for instance, there, and you set your aperture and your shutter speed, whatever. If you go then press the record the movie and you start recording, then it's not going to inherit those settings. It's just going to revert back to program mode. So if you want to access those settings and if you want full control, that's when you need to move it into the movie mode. And then in here, there are menus that you can change and set the aperture and shutter and things like that. So once you're in the movie mode, you've got your stabilization there. This one here is what picture mode you're in, vivid, art mode, whatever. This information here will tell you what frames per second, full HD, what setting you're in. The time code down here will tell you how many hours you've got left under that setting. These things down here that you see, they're all like these special effects that you can do. This one here, you can actually zoom in. I'll show you later. Then you got your histogram, your level meter, that time code there, your sound bar to tell you how the sound is, continuous autofocus and what ISO you're in. Also, there's a thing on the side here, another little menu, and they call that the silent menu. So you click that and then there's options here as well. This first one here is called Art Fade, and what it does is you can pick the picture mode that you like and then it'll fade into that picture mode. Click on that. It brings up the selection for the pictures, and then I'm in natural. Tell you I want to go to something that you can see, grainy film. All right, so let's go to grainy film. You let it go and then it slowly fades into grainy film. Gary. The next one is called old film, and what that does is it just simulates like noise and dust on the lens, give you that old 1930s type, you know, film look.
Good girl. Hey, look, Jerry. What's that joke? Look, Jerry.
The next one is called multi-echo, this one here. So if I press that multi-echo, it just leaves like an after image effect. The next one is called one-shot echo. It's the same as this one, but you press it once and then it does it for a little bit and then it goes back to normal. And then this one here at the end here is the movie teleconverter. So you click on that, puts a little icon there. You can move it around to wherever you want. Say I want to move in on that Olympus, and then you hit that other button there and it zooms in. The other way, quick way of doing it is hit the function 2 button. So you hit the function 2, puts up that little thing, and then hit it again and it zooms in. Okay, so in the movie mode, it's got its own menu system, and in here you can change everything. So to get into the menu system, you press OK and then you move the arrow keys. The back wheel moves up and down, and the front wheel changes what you want. So the first one is movie image stabilization. Setting 1 is image stabilization with sensor shift and digital image stabilization. So what that does is it uses the in-body stabilization plus digital stabilization. And then the second one is just sensor shift only, which is just the in-body image stabilization. The best one is the second one, which is sensor shift only.
Jerry, who's that? Where's the ball, Jerry? Eh? Who's that, Jerry? Who's that? You got the ball? Where's the ball?
The second one is the picture modes. In here, natural, vivid, all the standard ones that you've got. You've even got the art filters there. Okay, the next one is the white balance. The next one is the shutter mode. There are choices here for the seconds, 12-second delay, 2-second delay, and custom delay. That doesn't actually apply to the video. It applies to taking a photo. And if I press it, see there's that 2 seconds, 1 second, then it takes the picture. So I'll talk more about in-movie picture later. Now this one here is the auto-focusing. Most of the times people leave it on continuous auto-focusing. It just continually auto-focuses on the nearest object. You can use manual focus as well. If you're just stationary and you don't want the stupid thing hunting around everywhere, if you're just sitting there. This one here is the single autofocus plus manual focus. Autofocus there, and then you can also change the focus with the manual. That's pretty good. That's the best of both worlds there. And then the last one is continuous autofocus but with tracking. So you click on the screen, you click on that, and then you watch it, and then you see it move around, and it, hey, come back, and then it comes back, and then now I've locked on it to that little dog, not Jerry, and kind of keeps track. The next one is the settings mode. Okay, so in program mode, you can't change the ISO. You can only change the exposure compensation if you want with the front dial. You can change white balance and everything else there, but it's just for auto really. It's like an auto mode. The aperture priority. So when you're in aperture priority mode, you can, using the back dial, increase the aperture. See how it's getting a bit darker there? So I'm shutting down the aperture, and you can also increase exposure compensation as well. So with aperture, the ISO is on auto mode. In shutter also, same again, you can change the shutter speed And then the last one is manual here. Now with manual, you've got full control over everything like normal. The benefit of manual mode is that you can change the ISO. If you go to here, you can change the ISO there in manual mode. That's a lot of people use the manual mode because you got control over all three and even the shutter speed, and you can utilize all those tricks that the cinematographers use. Like there's a thing called the 180 rule. So I'll explain that later. It's to do with shutter frame rates and stuff like that. So the next one is the settings for full high def, standard definition, high definition, frame rates. So you can pick what you want here for that. This one here is a little funny icon there. See how it's different camera? That's for the thing called movie clips, where you can take 4-second clips and stitch them all together inside the camera. So that's another video. I'll do another video on that. I won't go over that. So in the quick option here, you can go through preset things that you've set up already. I've already set these up in the menu system. Okay, so in shooting menu 1, that menu system here, you can choose the settings for the movies. You've got this one, which is that movie clips one. You've got full high def superfine at 60 frames per second, full high def fine at 60, full high def normal. Now, with the difference superfine, fine, and normal, it's just the size of the bit rate. And then you got this thing called AI, inter or something. And that's like full on. It doesn't compress any frames in the movie. The size of the file after you finish recording is huge. Okay, see this one here, the little C there. That's for custom. You can do fine, super fine, normal, AI. You can set the frame rate. If you want, you can record it to that movie clips thing that I was talking about. You can have like a 4-second, 8-second movie clip. And then this bit here, you can make it faster. So the movie will be recorded for fast motion playback, 3 times the speed. Or if you want, you can retard the speed. And then this one is high def. So high def is just 1280 by 720. Then you've got standard definition, which is like 640 by 480. And then you've got high speed, which is 120 frames per second. Now to set up those quick shortcuts when you're in the control panel, you can go into the movie, which is under I, and then in here there's a movie specification settings. You can change what quick shortcuts you get in that control panel. So what I like to do, there's 4 you can choose from. I set mine up to full high def superfine, full high def fine, full high def normal, and full high def AI, which is that inter thing. So what that is if you remember where I left the menu system before, so if you remember here, setting those 4 there then gives you the option here. So there you go, superfine, fine, normal 30p, and then that AI. And then the next in the live control menu is the ISO. And then the next one is face detect, which is handy because it'll lock onto your face and focus. The next one is the sound. You can turn the mic on or turn the mic off. And then the rest of the settings are all in the I menu, which is the movie custom menu. The first one is the movie mode. You can choose what you want. Recording volume, you can increase or decrease the levels of the microphone. Just have it just a little bit read over when you're talking normally, obviously, not when you're talking too loud like me. The volume limiter, now what that does is if you do like shout or you hear like a car speeding by, it'll limit the sound from peaking and causing that annoying in your ear sound. Wind noise reduction, time code settings. Now this is all technical crap, for when you want to edit stuff, and if you got two cameras and you want to sync them and things like that. I don't bother. I use Vegas Movie Studio. I just do it on the timeline. I don't need no code. I mean, that's more for professionals. Info settings. Now, this is a good one. Now, what I do, I piss off the histogram, and once my levels are right, just get rid of that. And it's just cleans it up so much more, so you can actually see what you're filming. That movie specification, we already talked about that. The movie effect, if you don't care about that, you're just filming and you want more real estate on your screen, movie photo mode. So what this is you can take photos while you're filming. Mode 1 is the movie is given priority. All it's doing is just taking one of the frames from the movie. That's why it says there 16:9 photo. And then mode 2, it takes the photo at the proper settings, ISO and everything that you've set, but it stops the movie, takes the photo and then starts the movie again. Okay, so this is an example of taking a photo while it's shooting. This is that mode 1. Jerry, look. And then the last one here is the shutter function. Now that has 2 modes as well. That's, I guess, for people who want to use the record button, that red one, for something else, or they're just used to, they got muscle memory of using the shutter button to start and stop everything. And the last thing is this thing on the side here. They call it the silent menu. You can do stuff here. So you can change ISO. You can change your F number, and then shutter speed, make it a little bit louder, the microphone. And also, when you want to play back what you've just recorded, you press the playback button. There's a few tricks you can do in this mode to get better movie quality. There's this one rule that they call it the 180 rule or something like that. And basically all it is, and it applies to any frames per second. For instance, I've set that at 24 frames per second, all right? Now the rule is you just double it, so the shutter speed. So 24 would become 48, 30 would become 60, and then 60 would become 120. I'm at 24 there, so if I move the back dial and let's go to 48. Now the thing is, there is no 48 in the Olympus camera. There's no such thing as 48 speed. So the best next thing is 1/50th of a second shutter speed. And that's close enough. And a lot of people say, look, you wouldn't even notice the difference between 48 and 50 anyway. So that's the rule. It's basically you just double the number of the frames per second, and that's your shutter speed. 60 frames per second. There, I would then move that to 120. There's no such thing as 120, so 125 is close enough. Okay, so let's head out to the park, and there's a dog park that I go to, and we'll go test some of these frames per second and things like that, and all these tricks that you can change the shutter speed and everything too. It's bloody freezing today, so I won't be too long. Okay, so I've got it on shutter speed priority. I've put it on 24 frames per second. I've got it. I've set the shutter to 50. Okay, so now I've put it on shutter priority still. I've moved it over to continuous autofocusing, and now I'm at 60 frames per second, and so I've changed the shutter to 1/25th because there is no 120 obviously. So that's that 180 degree rule thing that they say to use. Okay, so now I've put it on manual mode. I'm at 24 frames per second. I've put the shutter speed at 50, so I've reduced it, and it's still too bright. So I've had to move up to f22. I've moved it down to f8, and you can see it's way too bright. So the last option would be to drop the ISO. So I've dropped it down to the lowest it can go, which is 200, and it's still too bright. So the only option is to use an ND filter. Okay, so what you do is you go into the ISO option, And in the ISO option, there's a little metering thing where you can see, and it tells you how much you're over, how many stops you're over, what it recommends, the aperture and stuff. So before you start filming, you click on the ISO, and then you can adjust your ND filter so it gets it nice in the middle, so zero, you know, in the middle of the perfect exposure. Bloody planes. So this is an example of manual mode at f4, shutter speed 50 because I'm at 24 frames per second, and I've got an ND filter, and I've balanced the exposure using the ISO to 200. Jerry, who's that? Big chocolate. Okay, so that's it for the movie mode. And then what I'll do, so remember to subscribe and hit the like button if you like this, and I'll keep on doing these videos, and I'll see you next time.